We're excited to have with us Jim Nash joining us here on the Oakland County Megacast. He's the Oakland County Water Resource Commissioner, recently reelected. I know we had you on just not long ago for our reelection special, but other than that, can we talk a little bit about how this pandemic is impacting what you're doing and how your team is actually operating right now?
Well, we have very set in stone methods now. We have not had a case for some time now. We had a couple early on, but actually they were their spouses were medical professionals, so they ended up getting it through that, and it did not spread through my facility. So we're being very, very careful. We used to have our morning call meetings where everybody came in and then went out to their jobs out in the world, and now we do it remotely, and it's so we don't really contact each other. Everybody has their own trucks, so it's all very it's pretty good. Most of our office folks are working from home. We've been keeping up our productivity is just where it's always is, and which is quite good. So until we're really safe, we're going to keep doing that. So that's our plan. Reaching out. We're also working with the health department. Early on, back in the early months, we worked with a professor from U of M who was looking at how we can see where these the virus turns up in our sewage systems. So we did some testing around the systems and found that we detected it. So we are now working with the health department to set up a program where we're going to be having test sites around our cities that we operate and maintain to test for COVID. So if we can get it before people even actually know they have it, because it's still coming out of them, we can actually maybe ahead of time get in front of some of these outbreaks. So we're looking at that as a possibility, and we're working with the health department on that program.
Okay, so that conversation is kind of fascinating but scary to me in the same thought process, is that you're saying that through the sewage system, so through someone's poo, you can maybe determine where the next outbreak is going to happen?
Right. So we know when you go to the bathroom, whatever you're evacuating from your body, it carries the virus if you have the virus. So it gets in our sewer system. Nobody's really exposed to sewage within our systems other than the people who operate and maintain them. And we have these systems set up so we're very, very safe. But that's, that's how these kind of things, outbreaks can be looked at. So going forward, when we have these facilities in place, there'll be just a little testing units in our drains that we can tap into from our electronic, operations. We don't have to even be there. So we can take these samples and then send them in for processing, or even potentially process them on site once we get going with those kind of tests. So these are the kind of things that we can do. And going forward, when other outbreaks happen, and we're human beings, we're susceptible to viruses. As these things progress in our human history, these are the kind of things we can do to make sure that we catch them in time. Your previous guest, the doctor, was incredibly informative. I learned a lot from that, just hearing him. And I appreciate these kind of long form interviews because it allows people to really get more into depth than you get in the short things you get on regular TV. So I appreciate that.
Jim Nash with us. He's the Oakland County Water Resources Commissioner. And earlier on in the pandemic, we asked about this. And I just want to follow up again because, like we said at the end of the previous interview with Dr. Veeder, things change over time. Some stay the same, but the context is always different as we get further into the pandemic. So your team has, of course, been working throughout this pandemic as is normal, as much as that is possible. And earlier on, we had in the pandemic, we had touched on some common issues we were seeing arising as people were at home more often and were using more of their in-home water resources and their drains and their sewer systems and so on. Are we seeing any common problems right now with people who are at home or are at work that are affecting our systems in the Oakland County area? And what are maybe some ways, if those problems are in place, that we can work to keep our water and sewer system as pristine and working properly as possible, especially during these times where it would require workers to be going out and about more often in order to fix them?
Oh, sure. How people react to this has changed over the time. And initially, when everything was shut down, there was we were doing only emergency work. So that was I guess, 2 months or so, that we were stuck right doing that. And so we had some of our stuff, our folks that were our field folks were doing week on, week off. So we could do, just to keep people a little safer. So we're not exposing anybody as much. So over time that's changed. Wearing masks is very effective. Again, early on, we're in this process of doing our replacing lead lines. This is the lead rule that came up a couple of years ago. We're actually next year is when the real full force of the changes starts. We've been doing them this year, some, but again, this has held that back because we don't want to be in people's homes talking to them, a significant amount of time with bringing in crews and stuff doing work in their homes. So, we held back on that. But going forward, we're going to be starting this up again as soon as we can. So we're looking forward to that. In terms of how people use their water, again, initially in that first shutdown, water usage dramatically dropped because industrial use of water is a significant amount of the water use in this country. And our industry shut down. So that dramatically dropped. People stayed at home, but you don't using industrial water at home. So while their home use rose, didn't rise nearly enough to make up for the industrial use. So industrial uses have come back some, and every month we've had more water use from the industrial side, and more people going back to work. And that's kind of relapsing, we're thinking, and we're not sure. Again, that's something that we have to look forward to. But it just depends on how much this hits again. If it gets extremely active and a lot of people are hit by it, I'm not sure what's going to happen. We might have to shut down again. We'll be prepared for that, but we hope it doesn't happen anytime soon. So again, as winter approaches, our immune systems are down. We're getting less sun. All the things that contribute to having more exposure to the virus, starts that to happen. Canada I saw an article today that they had their Canadian Thanksgiving a couple of weeks ago, and now they've had a significant increase in the disease. So it's hard to say. I would still encourage people like the doctor did to stay home as much as you can. When you're out, protect yourself and protect others. That's the whole thing. You're protecting everybody, yourself and others, by wearing masks, by being safe. So that's what we need to be doing, and my office is going to concentrate on that. We're always informing the folks at the latest thing, how to take care of themselves at home too. So we keep in communication with our staff that way. So, going forward, this is going to be something that will change again, and we're hoping to make sure that we stay ahead of that.
And Jim, knowing that, Jim Nash with us here on the Oakland County Mega Cassie is the Oakland County Water Resources Commissioner. Jim, as we're facing this second surge at the end of the day, you and your staff, you are paid by the taxpayers. Do you think there is some benefit that could come out of this, such as remote working, that could save the taxpayers some money in office space, or any long-term talks or consideration that could go into this pandemic that could benefit the taxpayer?
Sure. Well, first of all, I don't run my office on taxes. I get about 1.5% of my budget from the county budget that's from taxes.
Right. Well, at the end of the day, though, the individual person pays your money. We pay you and your staff salary.
Right, through rates, through the rates for the water we charge. So
right. So the public
when that doesn't change, I'm sorry.
So the public pays for your salaries.
Exactly. So when we're doing this, everything we're doing is to try to bring as much efficiencies and to make sure we're operating at the maximum efficiency of our operations. So all of that is caught into what we do. You're right. We have a significant number of our office staff, our engineers, all the people that work in the office are working from home. We're actually this week we're doing a survey of all the folks to see how they like it. What can we do better? How going forward once this is over, how do you see that working? Can we do things like share offices where some people come in Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, some people come in Tuesday and Thursday? Those kind of things can be done in a way that benefits everybody, and we can use our facilities more efficiently. Our field crews still have to be out there. This is for the office folks. But so, yeah, there's a significant amount of that we're looking at to see how we can approach this in the future. I'm sure governments all over are doing that because, we've always had some folks that work this way. And a lot of my people, again, are out in the field. They're not necessarily doing, field work, but they're at projects overseeing it, as engineers and things like that. So, we're out in the world, but we try to make sure that it's always done safely and at the minimum we can. So, we do this like Zoom and things like that. And again, when we have meetings with communities, more people show up at these meetings because you don't have to drive to get there. You don't have to spend time in transit. You just shine on and shine off whenever you feel like doing that. And you can get more information. So it actually has been successful for us, and especially in community outreach. So I really appreciate that too. So again, going forward, we're going to have to change. I mean, everything changes. Our industries are changing. Our auto plants are changing. All the different things to react to this, and I think we can bring more efficiencies. Again, all this feeds into how the amount of less travel we're doing helps our climate. All the things that we do are to become more efficient. Also help with. We're using less fuels. We're using less fossil fuels. All the things that climate is changing, we can now use this to help change that.
There are a lot of positives coming out of this pandemic. You're listening to 89.3 WBLD Orchard Lake, 88.1 WBFH Bloomfield Hills. And knowing that, Jim, anything that we didn't touch on here today that you want to get out to the listeners and the viewers before we let you go?
We operate, I have 375 employees. We operate and maintain systems in every community in Oakland County. You probably have already seen my blue trucks around that says WRC on them. We depend on folks for things like telling us about people doing illegal dumping of, anything, pollutants, sewage, all kinds of things. We're always looking for the public to help us protect our environment. Oakland County depends on our water resources. We have more lakes than any other county in Michigan. Our property values, if you live anywhere near a lake, are much higher. If something happens to one of our lakes, an oil spill, some kind of fish kill, it affects property values. It affects every one of us, and we have to protect our water resources. We have people in Oakland County and Michigan, and I've lived all over the country, who more understand protecting water more than any place I've ever lived. And just people get it. When you say, look, we have to protect this, people understand we have to protect that. We're surrounded by 20% of the world's great fresh water. We have a moral responsibility to protect that. I work every day to do that. My staff does. And the people that I deal with in our communities and our leadership in state and regional levels are all on board for this. Our citizens are. We want to protect our water resources, and we're going to do that, and we get public support on that. I want to appreciate that the public does care about that.
Well, we appreciate having you on the show as well, and you touched on illegal dumping. Anyone who has ever watched any of my previous reports, you know how much I cannot stand illegal dumping. And so if you can't report it, or if you're not comfortable reporting it to the state or the city entities, by all means, get a license plate, report it to me. I will track them down and I will return it to them. Return of senders, what we like to call those, because there's nothing worse than trying to pollute our communities with someone else's dump. And quickly, before we let you go, do you have an illegal dumping hotline?
Absolutely. You can go to, you can call 248-858-0958 and tell them that you're reporting that, and they'll send you the right person. Or you can go to my website, oakgov.com/water, and just put in the top search reporting pollution, and you'll get the number of the office right away. We enforce it and we clean it up.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you so much, Jim Nash, for being with us here on the Oakland County MegaCast.